Hello, and welcome to Unmasking Dementia Lived Experiences, a podcast dedicated to families, caregivers, and professionals. In each episode, we share powerful stories of love, resilience, and hope, along with expert insights into dementia care. My name is Christiana Egi. I'm a registered nurse and a passionate dementia advocate. As the founder of Alexis Lodge Memory Care Facilities, I have personally witnessed the profound impact of community and compassion, and I'm honored to be your guide on this journey. Let's unmask dementia one story at a time. Today, we have a fascinating discussion lined up, delving into meaningful insights and exploring ways to preserve our memories. Joining us all the way from Israel is Rina Yodkowski, a professional memory coach and geriatric social worker, founder of Memory Matters. She teaches online memory improvement courses to midlifers and seniors. Being in the field for the past 20 years, she has served as the director of an Alzheimer's unit in an assisted living facility in Maryland, the director of development at a senior enrichment program in Israel, trainer for dementia caregivers, facilitator of support groups, and an international lecturer on aging topics. Currently, she's a licensed brain health trainer by Dr. Amen and does one-to-one memory coaching as well. She is super passionate about her mission of helping those 50 plus to age more healthfully, both physically and cognitively, as she empowers them to believe in their own memory with confidence. Welcome, Rina. It's such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
So I have a few questions lined up for you. I'm really excited to learn about this because most of us do worry about our memories, especially seeing as dementia is growing at an alarming rate. No one is actually free, right? None of us is exempt. We don't know what's going to happen down the road, but we can definitely do a lot to prevent what's to come. Please tell us about your background and mission.
Okay, thank you. So, I am a geriatric social worker. And when I was 16 years old, I didn't want to go to day camp. So, I went to the nursing home to volunteer. And I sang and I danced and I played bingo and I loved it. I was like, oh my gosh, I love being in the nursing home. Now, most 16-year-olds don't like being in a nursing home, but I loved it. And then I kept going back and I volunteered and I felt like I could bring so much quality of life to the residents of the nursing home by doing the simple things, and then I sort of just followed that passion. I was really passionate about it. And when I had to go to college, I didn't know what to go for a degree in other than that because I loved it. So I went for a degree. I ended up with a degree in a master's in social work. And when I graduated with that, I was actually the head of an Alzheimer's unit in an assisted living facility in Maryland. And then I ended up actually getting married and moving to Israel, where here in Israel, I've done a lot of interesting things over the years in the field of geriatrics, including teaching memory courses. So I've been teaching memory improvement courses to seniors live here in Israel and then put it online right before COVID. I put my course online. And I found that, with just a little education and awareness, with some really good memory techniques, people can be so much more confident about their memory. So when you go into a room and say, why did I come in here? You get nervous, right? But with some simple techniques, we can help people believe in their memory and improve their memory. So that's my passion. That's how I got there.
That is awesome. Yes, everyone worries. People often forget their keys or forget why they went into a room and they think, oh my God, am I developing Alzheimer's? Right. I often tell people, as funny as it may sound, it's not a joke. However, when you forget why you went into that room. It's okay. But if you don't even know you forgot why you went into the
Right.
room, that is a problem, because one
Right.
of the signs of Alzheimer's is that lack of awareness.
Right.
So my next question to you is, what are some of the common misconceptions, like the one I just spoke of,
Yeah.
that people have about memory loss?
Okay. So people think that they can't do anything about it. That's first of all. They think, oh, if my mom had dementia, that's it. I'm doomed. But it can't be further than the truth. There's so much empowering research today that shows us that there's so much we can do through lifestyle factors, exercise, sleep, diet, social stimulation, cognitive stimulation. There is so much we can do. Like, really, the power's in our hands. And that's good news, but it also means we have to do something about it. So that's one misconception, is that you can't do anything about it. You can do a lot. There's a lot you can do about it. Another misconception is, I was always bad at names, right? People say to me, oh, I'm not going to remember your name. I was always bad at names. And I'm like, stop saying that. If you keep saying you're bad at names, guess what? You're wiring your brain to be bad at names.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were always bad at names, you still can get better at names. You can train your brain. Just like if I would walk around saying, oh, my bicep muscle is really weak, what would you say to me? You'd say, lift some dumbbells, right? Lift some weights to strengthen. Same thing with your brain. You can improve your brain. Your memory for names, I can teach you to remember names in a couple minutes, actually. So don't walk around saying I'm bad at names.
I think I'm going to need that help, because I have this habit of not retaining names on first introduction. It just goes over the top of my head. You tell me, oh, I'm Rena, it's gone. I'm not holding on to that fact.
And a lot of people are like that. So there's some simple things we need to do to encode the memory properly in the first place. Yeah.
Okay. So you already mentioned something about lifestyle. That's my next question to you.
Yeah.
How can change in lifestyles, such as diet, sleep, and exercise, improve our memory and brain health?
Okay. So, oh gosh, so much. Let's start with exercise. So, all the doctors don't agree on everything, right? Like the psychologist and the neurologist, it's hard to get them to agree. There's one thing they agree on, that exercise is good for your brain. So we know that exercise is good for our body. That we already know. We know our heart needs exercise. We know our muscles need strength training. But what might be new to some people is that when you exercise, it's like pouring water on a plant. So when you pour water on a plant, it grows. When you exercise, it creates BDNF. BDNF is brain derived neurotrophic factor, which is the growth factor for the brain. So when you exercise, you grow your brain. And it's use it or lose it. So we got to use that brain. How do we use it? Through learning new things. So this is where lifestyle comes in. If you sit at home all day and stare at four walls, your brain will atrophy. But if you are learning new languages and learning to play new instruments, and you're social, you're playing new card games, you learn something new, makes new connections in the brain. So exercising grows your brain. Besides the fact that it gets oxygen to the brain, which we all need. When you forget something, I always tell people the first thing you do when you forget something is deep breath, because it gets oxygen to the brain. You have a better chance of remembering what you want. That is the first simplest technique for recall. Deep breath, 2 deep breaths, 3 deep breaths, oxygen to the brain. Sleep. Let's talk about sleep for a second. When you sleep, you consolidate the memories from the whole day. So you went through a whole day, this happened and that you want to remember, that you want to remember. How do you consolidate those memories? When you sleep on it. Therefore, if you don't sleep well, your memories are not getting consolidated into long-term memory properly. The other thing that happens when you sleep is sleep removes the toxins in your brain. So I have this image in my mind that when I sleep, these little garbage men going around my brain, cleaning out the toxins. So those are the 2 very important things that happen when you sleep. And there's a lot of research on sleep. Your brain absolutely needs sleep to consolidate memories and get rid of toxins. So sleep is huge. Like, we have totally underestimated the importance of sleep in our lives. We all say, oh, we could sleep another time or later, right? It's not true. Your brain needs sleep. There's studies that found that people that have lifetime poor sleep hygiene are at higher risk for dementia. So there's a lot of sleep techniques and tips, but the bottom line is your brain needs sleep. So we said exercise, sleep, social stimulation. People that stay socially active, they live longer. There's research on this. I think we saw this during COVID. We saw the danger, the detriment of loneliness to people. It literally killed people. So that social stimulation is extremely important for the brain. And cognitive stimulation. Again, when people retire, they tend to do a lot less. They don't use their brain. They don't stimulate or challenge their brain. So their brain atrophies or deteriorates. We see this all the time after people retire. In fact, retirement is one of the risk factors for dementia. So it's okay to retire. Like I tell people, you can retire, especially if your job is stressful and you'll be more calm, but don't let your brain go to waste. Use it. Take online classes, challenge it, stimulate it. Do challenging brain exercises every day. Use your brain to the max.
We need purpose, right? So a lot of people lose purpose, and because it's like someone has worked for 40, 50 years, never called in sick one day, then they retire and they die. It's like, what happened? If you're not moving anymore, you have no purpose, everything just says, your body goes, oh, it's time to rest. Let's go to permanent rest, right?
Exactly.
But this is not scientific by any means. I'm just a comment. You used a couple of analogies that I love so much. You talked about exercise being like watering your plant and nourishing your brain. That is amazing. Because I often tell people the heart is a muscle and your brain too benefits from exercises, but putting it that way makes it a lot easier for people to understand. The other thing you said that caught my attention is you saying, because we do know that the brain cleanses itself when we sleep, right? They often say between 11 and 2 a.m. But you said, imagine it's like a garbage man, taking out the garbage, cleansing your brain. That is another thing that I think the ordinary person would understand. And then you mentioned also one of the things that can quickly help you remember is to take a deep breath and send more oxygen to the brain. I remember when I interviewed our mutual friend, Debbie Compton. She mentioned that there was one time her mom who had Alzheimer's did not know who she was. And then I'm not sure if the mother asked to dance or she asked the mother to dance. And after they danced, she said, Debbie, so once the oxygen got in and nourished the brain, she remembered the daughter that she did not remember a few minutes ago. So that just, helps us to understand, or at least helps us appreciate the importance of exercise and, of course, deep breathing.
Yes.
So my next question to you is, what are some techniques that can help people, especially people with dementia and early cognitive decline, regain their memories or strengthen their memories?
Okay, so if we're talking about people with like mild cognitive impairment, so people that are just starting to worry about their brain, they're just starting to notice changes, they really need to be a brain warrior. That's what Dr. Daniel Amen, who's a neuropsychiatrist, talks about, being a brain warrior, really caring about your brain. So, there are a lot of things, we didn't talk about diet, but there are a lot of things you need to do, especially if you're feeling, a loss. There's a lot you can do to hang on to it. So diet is huge. Eating the things that help your brain and not eating the things that hurt your brain. And there are lists of both of those. So the brain healthy diet is very, very important. And really staying cognitively stimulated, because let's say as we age, we all lose brain cells, right? Brain cells die as we age, but we can regenerate. It's called neurogenesis, right? We know now that we can regenerate new brain cells and grow new brain cells. So it's called neurogenesis. We do that through exercise, through eating healthy, through meditation and yoga and living a healthy lifestyle and cognitively stimulating exercises. So the specific things to do are really to stay very, very active. I always say this, I have this mantra, it's active and engaged, active and engaged. Because the minute we withdraw and pull back, we start to lose our confidence, we start to lose our abilities. So it's about staying active and engaged and doing the things you enjoy, including playing brain games. Puzzles are great. Things like tennis and dancing are really good for the brain. They're also good for the body. I said jigsaw puzzles. If you enjoy it, like I happen to hate doing jigsaw puzzles, but for the people that enjoy it, it's really good for the brain. Knitting is good for the brain. Anything creative and anything musical, right? Anything that's going to generate the creativity in your brain. So anything language based or music based, learning new things. If you always said, I would really love to learn how to do XYZ, now's the time. Go learn something new. It's so easy today. You can go online and almost for free learn anything, whether it's, anything from how to cook a certain dish to how to do a certain dance to yoga, face yoga. There's so many interesting things you can learn on YouTube and there's a lot of free sites where you can learn almost anything you want. But now's the time to learn something new. So that's if we're talking about someone with mild cognitive impairment. If we're talking about someone with a diagnosis of dementia, also, it's the same thing, really. Someone with dementia is going to have a harder time learning new things, but it's still about staying cognitively stimulated. So it's still playing the games that they still can play, whether it's reminiscing, whether it's taking out those, photo albums and looking through photo albums, which is very enjoyable. Dancing, like you said, the story with Debbie, dancing and music is amazing. So there's so much that people still can do even with dementia, and it's about finding their strengths, finding what they enjoy, and staying active and engaged.
Every time you mention dancing, it's like you're calling my name because that is something that I definitely enjoy and that we do a lot at Alexis Lodge Retirement Residence, my memory care facility. We actually were fortunate to participate in a documentary film on dancing.
Oh, wow.
With the National Ballet School of Canada. It's called Dancer, Not Dementia, and it's on YouTube. We're actually working on another research program that is Alexis Lodge and some other agencies with the National Ballet School of Canada called Sharing Dance Older Adults. This time, they're actually doing dancing, ethnic dances, teaching people to do that. It's amazing.
That's great.
Since almost 40 years ago, I've been dancing since my first mental health rotation. And that is part of the reason I actually stayed in mental health, because it's so much fun. And, when you talk about people with dementia, sometimes you have a resident who is upset and or has responsive behavior. You put on the music that touches them, and you start to dance with them. You see that they sort of, forget what was bothering them. Because dance, like music, are universal languages. And it's so good for your brain, your heart, your physique, Dancing is just one magic bullet that, everyone needs. And it's so easy to do. And so what that research program from the National Ballet School is about is eradicating stigma around dementia through dance. Like when you dance, no one is judging you, saying, "Oh, that one has dementia." No. We are all on an equal platform, just having fun, which is what we should do. Support each other and encourage each other to participate in things. And even our residents who can no longer walk and they're in wheelchair, we hold their hands and sway with them. And they love it. Passive exercises, So my next question for you is, how can young people start building their memory habits early in life? Technology is amazing, but I find that even as early as toddler stages, children are now getting stuck with what do you call iPads. Like there's not, I don't know, technology is fantastic, but it's also harmful. So how do we encourage young people to sort of detach sometimes and, do techniques or have habits that will improve their memories down the road?
Yeah. Yeah. So yes, staring at a screen all day is not good for your brain, right? It's not good for your eyes and it's not good for your brain. So it's about making sure that you're moving, your body's moving, and that you're doing things that are cognitively stimulating at any age. So it's, using certain memory techniques at any age, whether you're young kids and students need to learn. They're learning new things all the time. Their brains are very bright. It's interesting. There was a interesting video that was showing kids' brains when they were like sitting at their desk, which was like they were sort of falling asleep. And then outside on the playground running around, their brains were like, wow, so sharp, right? When they were running around and getting oxygen to their brains. And it's amazing. So we need to make sure at all ages to A, get the proper exercise, B, use our brains properly, and C, not to outsource our brains to technology. There's it's sort of like a tongue-in-cheek saying called digital dementia. Have you heard of that? Like digital dementia means that like I'm sort of like outsourcing my brain to my technology. So we want to be careful not to do that. So here's an example that I tell people. You want to remember your sister or sister-in-law's phone number. And you say, oh, I'll just put it in my phone. I don't need to remember it. It's true. You don't need to remember it. But once in a while, challenge yourself to remember it. So it's true that all the numbers are on my phone today and I don't need to remember anything, but I want to. I want to be able to remember certain numbers. So therefore, I want to have a technique, and this is what I teach in my courses, how to remember numbers. And I say to people, you might only use this once or twice, but challenge yourself to do it so that you can remember the number when you want to. And I've taught people to remember their 16-digit credit card number, and they never thought they could remember their credit card number. And I taught them to, because you can do it if you try and you have the right technique. But if you just say, no big deal, I don't need to remember it, I'll put it in my phone, then you're outsourcing your brain to your phone. And especially young people. Young people should be using their brains and not outsourcing everything to their phones. You can use technology to help, but not as a crutch. So the way I say it is use technology to help your brain and to take off the stress and the strain of having to remember, but then challenge your brain to remember certain things that you want to remember that are important to you. And you can do it. We can remember tons of numbers. We just don't anymore. But challenge yourself to do it.
So in other words, don't depend on technology. Take back some of that power and use the brain more often.
Exactly.
So what would be your advice for caregivers that are caring for loved ones with dementia?
Okay.
And how can they help their loved ones while helping themselves?
Yeah. So what I love doing is what's good for everyone. It's like a win-win, which is playing games. So when you play a game with someone with dementia, it's good for them and it's good for you. Now you might have to play two different levels, right? Like you might have to, work a little less hard depending what level they're on. But things like bananagrams, Scrabble, Sudoku, crossword puzzles, you can do with them and it's good for them and good for you. So you're challenging your brain at the same time. So I like things where you can interact together or even discussion questions, some challenging discussion questions where you guys could have a conversation with your loved one and, you can ask them questions and they can respond to you. Anything that's interactive is challenging for the brain, right? So having a discussion of, it could be history, it could be whatever's of interest to your loved one, but really engaging them in conversation. And that's good for you and good for them. The other thing I tell caregivers is it's very important, obviously, to take care of yourself, right? Self-care is, and what's part of that is get as much help as you can afford. So sometimes people don't want to get help for whatever reason, but I say get as much help as you can afford so that you can be a caregiver for a long term and be a really good one. You're going to do better when you have help. So those people that it takes some time to get it to accept the fact that they need help, and I just say, get as much help as you can afford and take really good care of yourself, because for some people, they're in this for the long run and they need to be in good shape in order to take care of someone else. That means exercise, take care of your emotional, take care of your own memory. So sometimes you need to be your loved one's memory for them. And that means your memory needs to be strong. So you need to do the techniques that I teach in order to keep your memory strong.
You're right. Self-care is not optional because you cannot pour out of an empty cup. And burnout is real. If you don't care for yourself, you stand the risk of, burning out. and then you would have failed that person you're caring for. So it's very
Yeah.
important to be a little bit selfish and,
Yeah.
take care of yourself. And I often I encourage, other family members and even the community to support people with dementia, because it's really
Yeah.
hard. It's a
It is
struggle,
very hard.
and no one can do it by themselves. So the more
Right.
support they get, the lighter the load is on. It is on
Exactly.
them.
Exactly.
So my one of my last questions for you is, what is the most rewarding part of the work you do as a memory coach?
Yeah, it's really rewarding to see people build their confidence and say, "Oh, I got this. I can believe in my memory." I'll just tell you one story. One lady was complaining that every night she would have to come back downstairs to check her door because she couldn't remember if she locked her door. So her bedroom was upstairs, and she would come downstairs every night to check her door, and it was driving her crazy. So I taught her a technique, and I said, "Try this." And it was to use your senses. Use your senses to encode the memory. This is very powerful. So that when you lock the door, now you're hearing the click of the lock, you're watching your hand turn the knob, you're using your eyes to watch, you're hearing the click and the shut of the door. And you say out loud to yourself, "I am now locking the door." And you feel the key in your hand. So it's tactile and auditory and visual. And you say out loud, "I have now locked the door." She tried that. And the next night she said, "You know what? I didn't have to go back down to check the door because I remembered hearing the lock of the door. I remember hearing myself say out loud, 'I have now locked the door.' I remember feeling the key in my hand." So it's just as simple as using your senses to encode the memory in the first place. And then you don't have to doubt yourself. You don't have the anxiety of like, did I turn off the stove? Did I take my medicine? You can use this technique of using your senses to remember whatever you did today. And it's very powerful and very simple. And it's just giving a little bit more attention and intention to what you're doing.
Actually, that was going to be my last question, to ask you to please leave us with a couple of techniques. So that's one. Do you have any other one that we can take
Yes.
with us, please?
Yes. So use your senses. The other one that I like to talk about is to stop multitasking. We live in a world where we're trying to do too many things at once. And as we get older, it becomes more difficult. So stop multitasking because we tend to make more mistakes. There's a saying, when you're always online, you're always distracted. Like, when you have like a bunch of windows open on your computer and you flip back and forth, you're wasting time going back and forth. That's the same thing in our brains when we multitask. When I'm trying to do this and this and this and this, and I'm switching between tasks, I'm wasting precious fractions of seconds by switching tasks. If I would do one task and finish it, and then do the second task and finish it, and then the third task and finish it, I will have 3 done tasks instead of 3 half done tasks because I'm trying to do too many things at once. And this is important as we get older. People say, "I'm too busy. I can't stop multitasking." But then they complain about their memory. They complain that, "Oh, I can't remember if I turned off the stove." Well, you can't remember if you turned off the stove because you were on the phone while you were doing it. And our brains they don't work like that. They can't do 2 things at once. So if you're talking on the phone, you're going to quote unquote forget that you turned off the stove because your brain was where? Your brain was on the phone. It wasn't focused on whether you turned off the stove. So focus and memory go hand in hand. And these techniques to help focus are very powerful because by just doing one thing at a time, you're bringing your focus to what you're doing and you're more mindful. Mindfulness is really powerful. If I'm mindful when I take my medicine, I'm going to remember that I did it, as opposed to talking on the phone or doing something else while I'm taking my medicine. So the one task at a time and using your senses are 2 very, very helpful techniques.
I heard this so many times growing up. My dear mother of blessed memory used to always say, "Jack of all trade,
Right.
master of none." But
Right.
we seem to
Right.
have completely forgotten all about that. Even
Yeah.
companies are looking for people that can multitask.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you're hiring someone to multitask, but you're actually hiring somebody to do half big jobs because you
Exactly.
can't serve 2 masters at the same time. That is the
Exactly.
reality. So it's better
Yep.
to focus on something, do it well, and then move on to the other one.
Yes.
But these days we live in a fast-paced world,
I know.
the drive-through world, everything has to be in a crunch, right? So that is
Yeah.
awesome. Thank you
Yeah.
so much,
Yeah.
Rena.
My
It's been
pleasure.
a pleasure having you. And I just want to ask you to please leave our listeners how they can connect with you.
Thank you. Yeah, the best way to connect with me is through my website. It's my name, RenaYudkowsky.com, RenaYudkowsky.com. And you can email me from there. You can see my programs. I have a membership called Remembership, and you can join that anytime. I also have a brain training WhatsApp group. So every day I post another brain exercise. It's super fun. That's called Empower. And you can get to all this from my website. So check out Empower and Remembership. And I'm happy if you have any questions, send me an email, rena@renayudkowsky.com. I'm happy to connect with people.
Awesome. It's great to have you all the way from Israel.
Thank
I wish you the
you.
best week ahead. And thank you again for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.